Good evening, everyone. This is Fuzzy Belvedere giving my 2 cents or feedback on the recent Forza Monthly for July 2023. Chris Sasaki was gracious enough to go over a lot of the details as far as the improvements to AI as well as improvements to the tire model. And they started off showing the improvements to AI where they're basically reworked the drive-atar system, or kind of, to some extent, kind of thrown it out and gotten rid of the some of the biggest things that people complain about, like rubber banding, or having it where on unbeatable, it gives like an extra boost or extra grip to the AI. So they were always, able to, walk you in the straights right after coming out of the turn, even if you hit it perfect. It made it very difficult a lot of times to be able to overtake the AI just because of the mechanic that they had in place. With the improvements, they've gone from like 3 driving lines per corner kind of thing to 19 lines, which hopefully will include some side-by-side racing, because there are times where certain turns on certain tracks you can, go 2 wide, maybe even 3 wide on something like maybe a Daytona Oval or something like that, to be able to get at least to the door or to the front fender of your of the AI competition. So having those 19 driving lines gives a lot more variety for the AI to take the turn, whether they're squaring the turns or diamonding the corners. They'll give them a lot more leeway, and you a lot more leeway to either outbrake or brake later and so forth to be able to pass them going into the corner. So that in itself was amazing. And then they proceeded to show a demo of this new AI on the Maple Valley track, where I think the times were like 126 or so for the old AI, and it was like 113 for the new AI. Where the big thing about that, well, one, the new AI is a good bit faster on its own, but the 13-second differential, I know, seems like a lot, but bear in mind the previous AI didn't have the player on track to gauge or base their speed off of. So the previous AI without a player on track, let's just call it what it was. They weren't all that intelligent, basically. It was more so of like a shadow or something that imagine if you had a force field on your car, they would basically try to outrun that force field kind of thing. But with the new AI, having multiple lines, having the ability to, proceed with better braking or better cornering and things along those lines, it should make for more competitive racing between you or between the AI and the player. So big improvement. Looking forward to it. The one thing missing from the demo I would have liked to see are multiple cars on track, or like the player and a couple of cars. So that way, when you do decide to go into the corner, hopefully they don't brake check you or, slow down too dramatically, like as if it was, a hairpin, even though it's a sweeping corner type of thing. But I'm pretty sure we'll get more of that in upcoming, Forza monthlies. But a big, big step forward as far as, the AI competition. And of course, for those that are more into multiplayer, this probably doesn't mean much to you because you'll be racing against real people. So that's always going to be the better experience in that regard, provided that they handle, people that like using that chrome bumper on the front to kind of move you and nudge you out the way. So as long as people aren't punting people, it should make for a better experience as far as on multiplayer. But for people like me, where I've raced the AI, typically I'll do endurance races, 15-minute races, and try my best to like either start at the back of the pack or middle of the pack and make my way to the front in like a time frame type of thing where you have tire wear and things along those lines. It's what I enjoy the most, because that way if I do mess up and knock the AI off track, it's not like I ruined somebody's day. It's the AI at that point. But moving up to the tire model situation, where the previous tire models basically just put the one point of contact or the one contact patch with the track, which I think it was at like 60 hertz or so. The refresh rate, as far as it monitoring that contact between the tire and the track, it seemed like it would make for a big number, but it didn't follow more of a natural flow of how the tire would model around a bump, or some of the tire deformation when you're applying side force to it, going into the turn. It They had to kind of reduce a lot of the bumps or curbs on the tracks that are on the real tracks themselves, and kind of make it a noise layer where it didn't really affect the handling. So it was not as precise, and it was to avoid, the random, uncontrollable undulation from the suspension when you hit the curb if you turn in too soon or something like that. But going from the 1 point of contact to 8 points of contact, that makes for a much better representation of how a real tire will interact with the pavement or the track surface itself, or possibly off the track surface, as far as whether it's the curbing or the grass and things like that. So having that, and I believe it's like 160. I probably should have checked that before, that exact number before starting this, but having a much better refresh rate or recall rate, where it's checking or constantly checking the points of contact with the track, is a much better way to go. Just because everything from factors like heat, forces or side force, or G forces to the tire itself, the little bumps, not just the curbing on the track, but some tracks, because of their age, and most tracks will get repaved over time in real life and stuff like that. But a lot of times they'll have their own characteristics as far as like undulations or bumps from other races where the cars stop at a certain area. You notice this probably more so with F1 because of the lighter cars, much more fragile hardware. After a while, certain braking zones have to be redone because they'll start to chatter when they slow down in those turns. So having it where, if they're building all these tracks from the ground up and having some of those nuance as far as the bumps, and having something that can read more of the contact more frequently and more precisely, will make for a more handleable, or more controllable or predictable turn, in comparison to what we may have experienced before, where you hit a bump, and if you weren't already pushing, force to make the turn, it might just cause the car to go straight into the guardrail or in the tire barrier or something like that. So having more points of contact, registering more frequently, just leads to a more realistic feel as far as the car is concerned. But we'll see how this all pans out once the game is in our hands. Hopefully, October 10th can't come soon enough. But those are great starts as far as that's concerned. They briefly touched on tire compounds and things like that, where I'm glad they have like a soft, medium, and hard tire compound. As you guys probably know, and you can see from the replay in the background, I play a good bit of GT7, and having the different tire compounds is a way to you could use pitch strategy. Also, it can help as far as when it comes to control. Like a softer tire is going to give you better grip. May not be the fastest tire, but grip in the turn, and if you're able to take turns faster, you're usually going to be able to gain on the pack. The medium compound is a good middle ground. It's a balance of grip and speed. The hard compound, a little less grip, so you have to be on your P's and Q's cornering, especially when the tires are cold. But also they tend to last longer, so you can, stretch out that pit window depending on your fuel more so. It'll actually focus more on the fuel than the tire wear at that point with the harder compound. But once again, you're going to have to take it easy on certain turns just to make sure you have a good corner, and don't understeer and wind up into the tire barrier. But that's a great improvement in that regard. And plus, with dynamic weather, having the option to switch to wet tires like you can do in real racing is another big improvement. Now, I know there's a bit of discourse as far as like the drag racing and dirt racing and drifting. The components are going to be in the game, like drift tires. I'm not sure if they're going to do dirt tires, but probably rally tires. and drag tires should be in the game at launch. It's just that the modes themselves won't be. So if we do get like a online, I guess you could say not really forum, but like waiting area, basically on certain tracks. I know on previous ones, like the test track, you could turn that into a drag race just by being able to, just line people up. It wouldn't count for anything. You're not going to get, drift points or, drag racing wins and things like that. But if you're just in like an open lobby at that point, which I'm hoping we get the multiplayer stuff here soon to get more info on it. But if you're in that open lobby, you can kind of make your own mode at that point. It's just that it may not count towards either achievements or to accolades if they carry that accolade system from Horizon into Motorsport. But overall, glad that they gave us an update. In future updates, one of the things I want to do is a video on the track list, because currently they have 12 tracks listed out of the 20. So that only leaves like 8 out of some of the previous tracks. And there's like 12 tracks that on the Motorsport that were really, really good tracks that unfortunately some of them are going to get left out. Like, I'm totally fine with more realistic tracks, less fantasy tracks, because I want this to be my simulation of me being a race car driver. But yeah, for the most part, you look forward to more videos on the multiplayer, the track list, even the car list. But just wanted to touch base with everybody that's as excited for this game as I am and looking forward to it. But there's a lot of stuff that they still need to show us as well, which I'm looking forward to. But tire and AI improvements, welcome change. Want to see what it's like in a race with multiple AI on track. If they have 19 racing lines, that should definitely make for a better race where you don't have everybody or all the AI crashing in turn one or brake checking in turn one. But just wanted to keep this quick and short. Thanks again for checking this video out. Look for more of these in the coming weeks. Like, share, subscribe. Greatly appreciate all of the viewership and interaction. But thanks again for your time. Look forward to seeing you guys on the track October 10th. Thank you.